Well, hello everybody and welcome to our Dark Data webinar. In order to allow for other people to join who I know are calling in, we're going to wait 2 more minutes and then we're going to start with the webinar. Well, hello everybody and welcome to Panorama's What is Dark Data and How to Combat It webinar. Recently, we've decided to make our webinars a little bit shorter, so we're going to make it short and to the point. It should last about 20 to 25 minutes, including questions, which I will take at the end of the. My name is Tomer Paz, and I'm the product manager for Panorama. So if you have any questions during the session, please ask using the GoToMeeting software. And at the end of the session, you will see my email address. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I'll gladly address any of your questions. So let's go right and straight to the point. What is dark data? If only you knew the power in dark data. Well, by the end of this session, you will. 90% of your data is dark data. That sounds like a lot, but it is true, and there are already many studies that show it, that most of the data you collect is actually dark data. But what does it mean? So it actually starts with the streetlight effect. The streetlight effect is an observational bias. It is something we all do and feel in every aspect of our lives. It means that we look for things where it's most easily available. Whether it's data or your keys or food in the refrigerator, when you open the refrigerator and you take what's in the front and not something that is in the back. And there's a famous joke that is associated with this, in which a policeman sees a drunk man searching for something under the streetlight and asks the drunk what he has lost. The drunk answers that he has lost his keys, and they both try looking for the keys under the streetlight. Then, after a while, the policeman is tired and he's asking if he's sure he's lost them here under the streetlight. And the drunk replies, "No, I lost them in the park." The policeman says, "So why are you looking for them here?" And the drunk says, "Well, here there's light." Now, of course, it's a joke, but it actually reflects a very natural phenomena in which we look for things where it's the simplest to look for them. And it is very true in, as I said, many aspects of our lives, but especially when it comes to the data that we collect. So, for example, we collect data and put it in relational databases. We collect data and put them in big data in Hadoop schemes or in simple Excel sheets. When we come to try to use this data, we don't go to the entire mass of data. We go where we know to look for things. If you have an Excel that has lots of data and lots of sheets, you start with the first sheet or with the sheet that has the name that tells you where to go look for it. You don't try to look for things in the entire amount of data that you have. So it's one of the biggest issues. So if you look for a simple BI scenario, when a person has a simple dashboard, he will look for the information according to the rules set in that dashboard. And if he doesn't find it there, then he says, I don't have it. And if he finds it there, he doesn't object to the rules set by the person who built the dashboard for him. And that is the classic problem here. The classic problem is that your users are looking for the data in the same manner you presented it to them in the first place, and they won't deviate. This is why dark data is considered information that organizations collect, process, and store, but don't use it. So, for example, a lot of your operational data is dark data. It's not being used. You just collect it. And in that respect, of course, the concept comes from physics, where it's considered today that a significant amount of the mass in the universe is actually dark mass. We don't know what it consists of. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to analyze it. It's not exactly the same thing, but dark data is the same thing. We don't use it. We know how to use it. This should be clear, or at least some of it. It's data that we collect, but we don't use it for decision-making processes. And that's what matters, right? Because when we talk about enterprise data, we talk about data that's being used for decision-making processes. So dark data is the data that you, because of the way you handle it, you don't use it. First of all, darkness is everywhere. Don't think that you don't have dark data. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We can see, if you look at the chart above, that dark data is actually accelerating in its size. So if we look at traditional enterprise data, CRM, ERP, data warehouses, operational databases, they all have dark data. And I disagree with this chart, even it's a very common chart. The amount or the rate of dark data in these areas is still very, very high. We collect a lot more information than the ones we use to make analysis. Just think of the data you have and how much of it is actually being used by your end users. But of course, as we move to big data sources, that in which we collect data that is not being used for statistical purposes all the time, log files, machine data, and of course when we move to unstructured data, most of it is dark data. Actually, most of your data is dark data. Even when talking about the traditional enterprise data, and from my purposes, what's important is traditional enterprise data and the first part of the big data. So web is important, social is important. As we move further to the right, it's more for specific use cases. So I'm not going to touch on how to deal with unstructured dark data. It's a big issue, but it's not something we're going to touch upon in this webinar. However, when you look at everything on the left, you still have a lot of dark data. So let's speak about what you need to do in order to combat dark data. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I have an issue, you need to deal with it. So I'll give you 5 simple steps that will help you deal with it. First is acknowledge it. You need to be aware that you have this issue, regardless of your type of organization you have, regardless of the type of data you collect. We've talked with many organizations before this webinar. I alone have interviewed over 100 people just on this issue, and we've come to the conclusion that every organization has it. Number 2 is don't fight it, because it's not an illness, unlike the image on the right. That's part of life. That's part of what data is. If you try to say, no, I don't have dark data if nobody's using it, so either I need to remove it or I need to make sure everybody knows about it. It doesn't work that way. You need to be aware of it and find how to deal with it. So the first thing you may want to try, but don't, is to make all the users in the organizations aware of all the data that they have. Sounds great. Knowledge is power. But most people will not know what to do with the overflow of data. Too much information. They wouldn't know where to start to work with it. So you need to find tools that will help you deal with dark data. And I have a tool for you. Surprise, surprise. We have a product called Necto, and we've just released Necto 16 that includes a section devoted for this specific issue, uncovering the value of your data, finding insights from your dark data. The best thing I can do is to show you how this works. How do you uncover dark data? So, to show you this, I'll go to Necto. So here you see Necto in front of you. Has lots of features, dashboarding, analytics, infographics. We have other webinars for that. We're focusing right now on dark data, right? So let's see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to an enterprise data mart and get dark data from there, or insights from the dark data. So I'll click on it, go and connect to my enterprise data mart. And here's the main thing. Necto went to all the information that we have in the data mart, in the enterprise data mart, and brought back insights regardless of what everybody else is using, regardless of my workboards and dashboards, regardless of all my analytical work. It will find automatically insights. And here's, for example, I see that I have a sales issue with Andrew Swint and sales of jeans by credit cards. I wouldn't have known this. This is a mystery to me. It's something new. Now, not only that, but Necto has found it by using a specific rule, comparing it using predictive analytics and comparing the actual result to the predictive analytics. So you can see in red the predictive analytics running here and the actual sales. And Necto has brought this as an insight because there is a mismatch here. We have 19 different algorithms running, giving us different results, and then we present the results that are most valuable. And again, let me be clear about this. This is automatic, without pre-settings of a workboard that focuses me in a specific direction. So Necto is available for you today. Want to see more? Contact us. We'll let you experiment it yourself. So I hope I opened your appetite to understand A, what is dark data, and that it's a real issue that you need to solve, and B, that we here at Panorama have a solution for you for that. It's called Panorama Necto, and we'll be happy to give you more information about this and let you experiment with it yourself on your own data so you can find out how important it is for you to acknowledge that you have dark data and don't throw it away, start using it. We still have some more time, so I have a few questions here. Let's see. One person writes to me, I'm really sorry, but I don't have dark data. So, I'm really sorry, but you do have dark data. Just think of all the Excels you have on your PC and how many of them are being used. But it's really, I'm just presenting to you the way we know data is in different organizations. I suggest you take a look at what parts of the data are being used. Next question. But I know where all my data is. So it's an interesting point. You may know where all your data is, but do other people who use data in your organization, do they know where all the data is? Okay. Thank you for that. Excel is not dark data. Well, I have to say that I view Excel as a sort of a small, very flexible database. A lot of people and a lot of organizations collect data in Excel and store it in Excel. Not just to calculate things, but to actually, as a mini database. And in that respect, in many places it is dark data. Not every Excel spreadsheet I wouldn't count every Excel spreadsheet, but many of them are. Can Necto run on dark databases? So you've seen Necto run on dark data. The concept dark data is not necessarily a dark database. So in most cases, it's not the entire database that is dark. It's just segments of it. So you are using segments of the data and you're neglecting other segments of the data. Okay, here's a little bit of a philosophical question. It's not the data that is dark, it is us. So it's an interesting concept. No, the data is not dark. The data is data. But we are not dark either. We just try to do good. Maybe it's like night and day. At nighttime everything is dark, but doesn't mean that the trees changed. Just that it's darkness that surrounds them. So it's really darkness that surrounds the data, not us or the data itself. Okay, I think that's what we wanted to cover today. If you have any more questions, you have my contact information in front of you, and I'll be happy to continue and talk with you about these things. If you want to learn more, also you can contact us through our website, and we'll be happy to give you more information or access to a demo or a trial system. Thank you very much for joining us today, and see you at the next webinar. Bye.